Hi there. Hope everyone's doing well today. Ray is not here with you this morning. I am his wife, Karen, and I'm going to share with you a little bit about Army life as we experienced it. And I hope you'll bear with me because this is really new for me, recording something like this and then looking out in the front, and I see myself, which is, I'd rather see you guys than me. But I'm going to attempt to give you a few glimpses of those years. I have a lot of notes, and I'm not going to get to all of them because I've done this twice already, and I've gone over the time limit. So I'm going to try to talk a little faster than I usually do, but it's not easy for me because I talk slowly. I'm from Texas, and we do talk slow. So, but I will try to talk a little faster so I can get through a lot of this stuff. When Ray and I met, I was teaching in Norman, Oklahoma, and he was the pastor at my parents' church in Texas, the church I grew up. Ray always likes to think that he saved me from a terrible, terrible fate. I had applied to teach overseas with Dodd schools and was accepted to teach in Iwakuni, Japan. Ray proposed to me about a week or two before I received my notification that I had been accepted. So I remember actually signing the paper saying I was declining their offer, and I thought, this better work out with Ray. I thought, Ray, Japan. But it was a tough decision, but not really. I'm just kidding. But he thought that he saved me from a terrible, terrible fate because he thought if I had gone to Iwakuni, I would have married a Marine guy. And he thought that was not good. I should marry an Army guy. So anyway, he takes a lot of credit with that. So of course Ray had to go through a process to be endorsed by the United Methodist Church as a chaplain. His last step was one final interview the week before we were married. The committee wanted to meet me also and flew us both up to Kansas City from Dallas. And they wanted to make sure that I was up to the task and I would be 100% supportive. I was asked just a few questions, and of course Ray was given the green light. We got married the next week, and 8 months later, he was called to active duty, and we went to Fort Bragg. And we were really, really excited about our new adventure, even though we didn't know too much about what was in store for us. And I remember going to the post the first time, and I remember seeing so many soldiers on crutches and had leg cast on, and I guess they had some type of mishap on their jumps. And these were the airborne guys, and that's what Ray wanted to do. And I thought, oh my goodness, is this how he's going to end up, So we get to the post, and we sign up for housing, and we had to spend about 3 months in temporary apartment. And while we were in temporary quarters, he went to jump school at Fort Benning, Georgia, and for 2 weeks. And while he was there, I had to move in to quarters on post, and it was first time to do this. And I was sick the night before with a stomach virus or something. I was very, very late, and the movers were pulling out, and I begged them to pull back into the driveway so they could unload our things, and they did, which they were very good. We didn't have very many things. So I moved in, and then the next morning I woke up to a piece of paper that was on the screen door of the front porch, and it was a citation. And I was told that I had to mow my yard ASAP. Grass was too high. And even though I hadn't lived there, but 2 days or 1 day, I had to mow the grass really fast. And I thought, well, this is my welcome to the Army, Karen. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So that's how that went. And when we were at Bragg, I wasn't able to teach at the very beginning because I had not taken the national teacher exam that North Carolina required. I taught in Oklahoma and Texas and for 5 years and had my master's, but those states didn't require that exam. So I got a job as a long-term sub and then as a teaching assistant. I passed the test in the spring, and I taught 6th grade the next 2 years. And really, being a teacher's assistant was really, really good for me that year because it gave me a little freedom to get out and learn more about the Army. So that worked out fine. And several things that I remember so well that were kind of key to me while we were at Bragg was that his first field assignment or field exercise, he was going to be gone about a month. And I was just not real happy with that at all. A whole month. I thought it was terrible, and I was really dreading it and for a long time. And then he left, and then about a week afterwards, I thought, gosh, this is terrible. I can't live like this. I need to be happy. I need to be functioning better. So I just really made this decision those feelings were just going to have to go away, and I was just going to have to be focused on being happy and living my life the way I was supposed to. And that really did make a difference, I think, my attitude. And I have to say that Ray and I had a conversation before he came on active duty about him being out in the field or being gone. And I asked him, how often do you think you're going to be gone, or how long do you think you're going to be away? And he said, oh, I just think probably just a few nights a year. And of course, now we laugh at that and go, whoa, he was totally wrong. He had no idea what he was talking about. But that's just the way it was. Then another Fort Bragg standout was the second time we were there. This was during August 1990, and everyone, the military was going to Saudi Arabia for the Persian Gulf War. And Ray was the chaplain for the 82nd Aviation Unit, which was helicopters. And they were going back and forth whether Ray was going to stay at Fort Bragg or go forward and go to Persian Gulf. Well, he came home on a Friday afternoon, and he said they had decided he was going to stay there at Fort Bragg. And I know he was really, really disappointed because I know he wanted to go with his unit. So, okay, so he's going to stay home. Well, then on Monday, I called him at work around lunchtime. I always called him at lunchtime for some reason. And his voice sounded a little different. And I said, what's going on? He says, well, I'm really, really busy. I really can't talk very long. I said, well, what are you doing? He said, well, I'm packing up. I've got to get the chapel closed down. I've got to pack all my stuff. I'm leaving. And then, of course, I said, leaving for where? Of course, I knew where he was going. And, he said to Saudi Arabia. So, obviously, things had changed. So I put the boys in the van, and we went to the chapel to say goodbye to him. And we did. It was real short. He was already in the Persian Gulf. He was already thinking about ahead. So we said goodbye to him very quickly, and I went back home, and we didn't see him till April 91. So that's how that went down. So that brings us to separations. And everyone hears that military families go through deployments. And that's the main form of separation. But there are others, too, because a lot of times they're on training exercises, and they go to different schools, and sometimes last-minute moves, which cause the family to go separately, not together because of the spouse's job or the children's school year. And just to give you a little idea of non-deployment separation, Ray had 2 weeks' notice the first time we moved to Germany. He went without me in March, and I followed him in July because I wanted to finish my school year. And we were apart for about 4 months. And Ray periodically went to certain schools or training, and this is a time when he went to a 4-month training in Kansas, and when he got back home, he was deployed to Saudi Arabia. And so he missed the 9 months of the first year of Matthew's life. And then another time, he also had 2 weeks notice to move to Germany when we were living in South Carolina. He flew out on Thanksgiving Day, and I joined him 9 months later after finishing my school year, finishing up lots of things with our house, getting it ready to put it for sale. Matthew finished his school year. We sold 1 car, and we shipped 1 car. And so those are a few examples. And our 4 major deployments were really different. There were different locations and different places personally. We were at Fort Bragg when he went to Grenada. That was just me. Second time at Bragg, he went to the Persian Gulf when the boys were 8 months and 2.5. We lived in Bad Kreuznach, Germany. When he went to Bosnia, we had just moved there the day before from Hohenfels, Germany, to Bad Kreuznach, And we moved in that day, and the next day I drove Ray to Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany, and he flew out to Bosnia. And then the last one, their big one, was in Afghanistan. We were stationed in Vicenza, Italy, and the boys were about 15 and 17. And Patrick, last half of his senior year, Ray was gone. He missed it. And so a lot of people think that because you've deployed once, it gets easier. In fact, I think it really might get a little more difficult because you know what can happen there. And when Ray was gone, for whatever reason, just like the other spouses, I missed him. But then as a chaplain's wife, a lot of eyes were on me. And I was expected to handle things well. And I learned to keep my own feelings to myself, and my stress, and my own struggles, as much as I could to myself. Because others really did look for me as an example and for strength and guidance. One of my most, I guess, serious experiences are kind of overwhelming and intimidating, and it was everything. When Ray was in Saudi Arabia, the brigade commander's wife called a meeting of battalion commanders' wives and me, and we were told there would be 85% casualties and how the notifications would be carried out. It was really, really, really unsettling. Thinking about 85% casualties, that's a lot. So I went on home and I cleaned my house, and I found all of our important papers, his will, our insurance papers. I put them out on our German antique chest, and I figured if you were ready for something, then it doesn't happen. And if you're not ready, then it does happen. So if I was ready for all this, then I was in the clear. Nothing bad was going to happen. I also cleaned up my house in case my mother-in-law came for whatever reason. And so the deadline did arrive, obviously. That's when President Bush had given the deadline date, a line drawn in the sand. And so it was really an eerie day for me. It was very quiet. I don't know if just in my head or if it actually was. So then the war started. And I kept my papers on the chest, but of course the house went back to normal, which was messy. And Ray came home in April of '91, and I think we talked on the phone about 3 times, not more than 5 or 6 minutes each. But then also when Ray was gone, all the times he was gone, it seemed like I always visited the ER or the orthopedic people. The boys and I became very well acquainted with the emergency room and the orthopedic department. They were always like breaking something. We usually were on a first name basis, and we still exchanged Christmas cards with some of them, really, with a couple of them. So when Ray would come home, usually one of the boys, and this really did happen, one of the boys would be sporting a new cast on his arm or his leg. And the boys were always, of course, glad to see their dad come home, but if one of them had broken something, they were really excited to show Dad. So when Ray was gone, he really missed lots of things of our family life, chunks here and chunks there, and he always had to jump back on board our moving family train when he returned home. For example, he missed Matthew's first steps, his first words. He wasn't there for Patrick's first football games and soccer games. He was gone for their senior years in high school. He missed countless anniversaries and birthdays, a few Christmases, countless special times. He missed a lot of things, one thing about me, I was able to see all that, our family things, and that was always good for me, but he missed out. The boys always had to find their way every time they moved, just like all military kids. They had to start over, find their niche, a new place, start in a new school, making new friends, joining a sports team, becoming a member of a club, new curriculum, new teachers, new country. That was probably one of the hardest things for all of us. I pulled Patrick out twice because of the schools to homeschooling. First time, first grade, Fairbanks, Alaska. Second time, Bad Kreuznach, Germany, 4th grade. Just not good situations there. Each son attended 11 schools, and I'm very, very thankful they can read and write. And then as far as jobs for me, I was very fortunate that I was able to find a job. I guess if a teacher, it was easy to find a job. And I loved most of the jobs I had, all the positions I had. But usually I was on the bottom of the totem pole, and I didn't really have a choice as to what I was going to take, because we would move toward the beginning of the school year, so all the positions had been allocated, and then I had to take what was left. But it seemed to work out. I always liked everything we did. We had a lot of moves. I think we moved more than most, but maybe not as much as some. And the Army moves you, yes, but there's a lot of preparation and work to go into a move. And I'm not going to have time to go through all that, but I have it in the notes about you have to divide your baggage into categories when you pack up. You have to go through all your stuff, sort it out. Everything has to be clean. Lots of things you have to think about. Your passports, if you're going overseas, you have to have a government passport and a leisure type passport, your personal that you pay for yourself. Your pets, you have to make arrangements for them. The Army does not pay for them. You pay for them yourself and make all your appointments for your vaccinations. A lot of it is timing. 10 days before you fly, they get their shots. You really have to plan out and organize. You have to consider the voltage of your country where you're going. Make sure your medications are current, your IDs and your driver's license are current. It's just a lot of work. And also, I just want to mention this about moving. One thing that when you have children and they're in college, they come home. Well, when they come home to see you, say at Christmas, it may not be the home where they left. So a lot of times they don't even know anybody. It's a new house, a new home, new surroundings, no friends, nobody to catch up with. So that's they didn't have that part of life that I had. And that was kind of sad in a way. You know? And I would just say driving in other countries, Germany, I love driving in Germany. They are so good at their driving. They have wonderful, wonderful roads, and they use their blinkers. They use the zipper method. They're very uniform. And but every country you have to, let's say in Germany, you have to take a test to drive, to live in Germany and drive. And then when you go to Italy, you have to take another test for Italy. And those tests they're not easy. And there are different ways. They have different rules when they're driving. But like I say, I love driving in Germany and Italy. Whoa, it's very intimidating at first. They make their own lanes. They're kind of progressive, and there's lots of bikes and scooters, and they make their own lanes sometimes. But after I got used to it, I really did love it. It was lots of fun because you just go everywhere. It was a lot of fun. So, places of ministry, you would think that the chapel would be the center of the universe for places of ministry, but actually it was the unit where Ray was assigned. And in the unit, as a unit, they socialize, they have a lot of things together as families, and then the spouses also have a separate thing that's called a coffee. They meet once a month, called a coffee, just to get together. And it can be a really good thing. Many didn't know what to do with me as a chaplain spouse. Some were a little bit not real friendly towards me or didn't include me. Sometimes I was left out. Sometimes they loved me. Sometimes I had lots of good friends. It really depended on the people there. I was the only chaplain spouse in the unit, as Ray was the only chaplain. And I had to find ways to get in with them. And I usually just volunteered to, visit, do anything I could to help get my foot in the door. So the unit had lots of social events, like I said, and it built up lots of camaraderie and built tradition. And then the chapel, of course, military installations provide chapels for religious services, and chaplains serve in the chapels as well as in their unit. And the chapels are really generic. They're not divided by denominations. It can be set up for a traditional Christian service, usually referred to as a general Protestant service, and then be reconfigured for any other religion. And they would have these, they were equipped with removable religious symbols so that the different congregations can worship with their own religious symbols. And sometimes there were separate services for always for Roman Catholics and Jews, and then sometimes for Episcopalians, and then some Orthodox Christian groups and Lutherans. And then the military congregations are much like the civilian ones. We have, you have the prayers, the sermon, choir practice, and things like that, youth groups. And in our early days, the chapels were kind of limited as far as their facilities. They would have a sanctuary, they had the chapel offices, and a small fellowship hall, and no classrooms. So we had Sunday school in the chapel offices, and that was always a hassle. It's just not very family friendly. But later on, they would use a school or the education center on post, and that helped some. And as far as chapel ministry, I tried to work where the need was. I liked to play the piano and the organ at a variety of chapels at different places. I even directed an adult choir. Wow, they must have been hard up, and a few times. I don't want to do that one again. I almost always was involved in children's ministries, taught Sunday school, directed children's churches, children's choir, Sunday school superintendent, vacation Bible school, Christmas programs, things like that. And the chaplains are really part of the two worlds, the unit world and the chapel world. And like I say, they're kind of two worlds simultaneously operating. And the chaplain spouses on a post would get together. We would have our own monthly coffees also. And this provided us a way to get to know each other and to learn each other and to learn about the community. It was an excellent support group. Some posts had up to 90 chaplains, or as few as 4. And the senior chaplain spouse would lead the group. And as Ray moved up in rank, my role changed and expanded, where I was expected to mentor and support all these chaplain spouses. I was the senior chaplain spouse at 4 of our duty stations, and it was a real challenge at times to create community within those, with the chaplain spouses. You know, such a difference in faith groups, denominations, and personalities. Some spouses were not so open to other faith groups that were different from theirs, and at times it was really a challenge. For example, when we lived in Heidelberg, Germany, most of our chaplains were Protestant, but we also had a Jewish rabbi, a Muslim imam, and a Russian Orthodox priest chaplain. That was a handful. And then when in D.C., when Ray was at the Pentagon, I was the senior chaplain spouse for the area and then the entire Army. The chief of chaplains was a priest and therefore was not married, and I was the chaplain spouse for the entire chaplain corps. I was to care and minister to all the chaplain spouses all over the world. And I was so thankful for email and Facebook. And the community life is really, really important to military families, especially when overseas. We really got, most of the time we were so close to everyone overseas. And I would like to volunteer outside the chapel, and they had spouse clubs and community mayor and PTA and things like that. I always thought it was a good witness to serve in different capacities in the community. But how was anyone to know about God if we just stay in the chapel? Wherever we were stationed, we opened our home for different events, and always involved food. We had chaplains over, our kids' friends. We had open houses, Texas Independence Day celebrations, potlucks, cookouts. Ray always tried to bring people together whenever we could. When I look back over our Army years, there's a couple of memories that really will stay with me. And one of them is the bombing of Libya. Ray was on a field exercise in Grafenberg, Germany, when Libya was bombed. And I was at home, of course, in our apartment. We lived on the economy in a German apartment. And my alarm would go off every day at 6 a.m. and it was tuned to a German radio station because we had no reception for the Armed Forces Network. So this particular morning, the alarm went off, and President Reagan came on and announced that we had bombed Libya. I jumped out of bed, got dressed, and got in the car to go to work because I wanted, in the car, I could get reception and hear a radio station. So I drove 30 minutes to school, and everyone, of course, was wondering what was going on and talk about what had happened. And we were told to go straight home after school and park our car in a garage or someplace where they didn't see our license plates, because on the license plate it said USA. And so, of course, it identified us. And so they wanted that to be, they weren't sure how things were going to go, how people would respond. In fact, on post, there were a lot of protesters outside the housing area, burning the American flag and shouting obscenities, and it was really bad. I really felt bad for the families and the kids, seeing that outside their home. And so I did drive to school, and the next day, and I was surprised to find that the whole compound of our schools was like a two-block compound. There was that concertina wire all around it, and there were tanks on each corner, and there were soldiers all over the place. There were soldiers on each school bus and positioned throughout the campus. And whenever our class went outside, soldiers escorted us. And it was really pretty disturbing. But my class was I had fifth graders, and I had mostly boys, and they were so cute, but they were fired up. And they declared they were going to get Gaddafi. And they said, Miss Bailey, let us have him, and we'll take care of it. We'll protect you. They were really cute, but little did they know what was going on. I guess I'd like to share with you a little bit, a couple of my favorite things about the Army, and like Reveille and Retreat. If you're ever outside during Reveille or Retreat on an Army post, you stop whatever you're doing, you turn and you face the music, bugle, usually done over a loudspeaker. And children even stop playing on the playgrounds in their yard or anything. And I remember one soccer game in particular, Patrick was playing in, and Retreat began, and all the kids, they just stopped playing. The referee blew the whistle, and everybody knew what to do. They turned and they faced the music. They stood still and quiet, and then the music was over, and then they started playing again. It's a neat experience. If you are driving on post and you're in your car, everyone gets out of their car and stands at attention. That's on an Army post. And now, when my dad would visit, he loved being in the car when during Retreat. He loved getting out and standing at attention. And also, before a movie, if you have a movie theater on the post, the national anthem is played right before the movie. And there's usually a little beep, beep, and then the music starts. And everybody just stands up, quiet, and at attention. And then when it's over, they sit down. And I think in 34 years as an Army spouse, everyone was always very respectful this time. The kids, little and big. It was really great. And another favorite thing of mine was Army families. They are amazing. There's such an assortment, and we met such great people, some really true heroes. Fantastic people. This life allowed us to travel various places in the world to live and visit, and that we probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to see otherwise. And I'm really glad that our kids were able to see all the things that we saw. And I love and I miss at the same time some of the sounds of the Army. The helicopters flying, the cargo planes taking off and landing, hearing gunfire and artillery in the distance, the sounds of tanks lumbering down the road, soldiers running in formation with their jodies at 6:30 in the morning. Don't really need an alarm clock if you're not a soldier like me. You hear I mean, it's loud. Thousands of soldiers at some places, just singing their jodies. But this is just a small sample of what life was like for Ray and me for 34 years. These years were filled with lots of adventure, great places, really strong friendships, lots of disappointments, plenty of stress, but we had lots of rewards. There was lots of wonderful camaraderie, community. We felt we lived had a sense of purpose. Those years went incredibly fast, and I can't believe we actually did all those things and that it's over. But I try to remember a saying of Dr. Seuss. It says, "Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened." And I'll finish with words by John Wesley. In every office that Ray had through the years, he had a framed copy of John Wesley's words, and I'll read them to you in just a second. But they hung by his office door. So when he would see it when he came into his office, and when he would leave, he would see it. And it was just a constant reminder of how to live each day. So I'll leave you with this. It says, and I'm sure you're familiar with these words, but I just love them. Do all the good you can by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as you ever can. So that concludes my portion. I think I was a little bit long. I'm so sorry. I left some things out, so please read the notes in your newsletter. And thank you for letting me be with you. I hope it was okay. So thank y'all. Y'all have a good day.